this is a special edition we are doing today. Amid all the developments that have come to occur just within a span of 12 months. The July Revolution in Dhaka, then the Gen Z Revolution in Kathmandu. Two nations, two governments overturned, and now one already being headed by an interim government with an interim head, the other, which will be, in fact, following suit. But before discussing what lies ahead for both these nations at this point, I want to deep dive into what has caused and rather analyze the situation. What caused it to come to a situation where we see governments being overturned, and that too with violence protests of the sort that we witnessed? So, without any delay, I will just quickly introduce my panelists for the day. Anamitra Chatterjee, senior journalist from Asia. Darshan Parajuli, a voice joining us from Nepal, and Pathikrit Pine, geopolitical analyst. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on India Today. मिस्टर चैटर्जी, आपसे पहले पूछना चाहूंगी, आपने एक
All right, you
आर्टिकल
can.
लिखा है,
Audible?
आपने एक आर्टिकल लिखा है, यस यू आर ऑडिबल,
Okay.
जिसमें आपने सिमिलैरिटीज के बारे में बात की है between Nepal and Dhaka. What happened just near about a year apart. And what we are trying to understand is, what were your observations? You have been in Dhaka. आप ढाका में 25 साल करीब करीब वहां पे आप रह के रिपोर्टिंग कर चुके हैं. आपने क्या देखा, आपने क्या ऑब्जर्व किया जिससे आपने ये पूरी आर्टिकल जिस पर बेस करके आपने लिखी है?
A couple of days ago, one of my friend, he is a human rights activist. Now he's underground. He practically sent me 5 short videos of bullet-ridden protesters in Kathmandu.
जी.
And protesters, they were hit by bullets in his forehead or in their eyes, and actually their last breath, they're all dead. Now almost all this type of videos, but there is some video also. What he said that in Bangladesh protest, some mysterious stray bullets came from some high-rise buildings, and people and protesters were dead. It is like his name is Mugdho. Mugdho actually distributed waters to other protesters. And in a video, it was we saw that a stray bullet came to his forehead and he dead. And this is the problem. And after that, interim government and new interim government's home minister, his name is Brigadier, visited the hospitals and police and military barracks, and what he told was absolutely hilarious. He told that all that bullets were from 7.62 sniper rifles. Police and militaries, they don't use it. Then from where the bullet came? He also said some other things, but the next day he was transferred from Home Ministry, and the rights activists, they believe that some sniper people with sniper rifles, they were at the high-rise buildings, and they fired bullets indiscriminated. And this was those were not police or state people.
Hmm.
They were, uh, it was actually all in the plan to organize the protest. The protesters, they planned it, and they kill one or two with stray bullets, and to instigate the protests. And
Hmm.
almost 50 people in Dhaka in 7 to 8 days were killed, and almost all of them, almost
Hmm.
them, they were uh, hit in uh,
They were
forehead
hit in
or
the
head.
forehead.
Yes, yes, yes.
Right.
They were
Right.
in Kathmandu. Actually, they did the same thing when police fired. The first row, they were the protesters were in first row. They have
Hmm.
most chance to be hit by bullet. But
Hmm.
these protesters were not in first row. They are in middle of the march or in last of the protest march. But they were hit, and
Hmm.
hit in forehead or head. And sniper bullet. And actually, this is the similarities. The question arises: is there sniper rifles also used in Kathmandu after this? Actually, Tripoli, where the U.S. regime change operation, it was planned, and it was first planned, and snipers were very much effective to to boost the protesters by killing protesters,
Hmm.
and that was also we saw in Kathmandu also.
So that is the highlight of your article, and thank you for putting forward your observations here. Darshan, I'll bring you into the conversation here. The question isn't with regards to whether there was corruption from the government. We understand that the people there, both in Dhaka as well as in Kathmandu for that matter, there was a resentment brewing amongst the public with regards to corruption. That is there. But what we are discussing here is there a chance that there were elements, and foreign elements for that matter, which may have fueled the very protests in both these capital cities? And where I want your word in here is the fact that did you see any of such incidents? A, and there were certain social media posts I remember, and these were Gen Z pages again that had come out to say it during the beginning of the protests that this was supposed to be a peaceful uprising, but it ended up getting out of hand. There were warnings that were going around on social media itself. So you give us a picture of what happened in Kathmandu, and if we have seen any of this replaying in Kathmandu for that matter.
Right. So thank you, Shreya, first of all. So yeah, I mean, we could definitely can change the whole narrative of any kind of protest that's happening in different parts of the world.
Mhm.
But in my observation, because I have closely watched the protest, in fact, I know a few of the Gen Z who are leading it. And the intentions overall behind the whole thing, right? So for me, the social media ban, the entire thing of corruption is there, but the triggering factor became the social media ban. And
Mm,
today internet is a basic rights.
mm,
And Nepal, after few months, there is also a great Nepalese festival called Dasai, right?
mm,
So there were entrepreneurs, there were content creators whose main source of income was internet. Like for myself, I'm a LinkedIn influencer, so I try to convey AI ready
mm,
community there.
mm,
When everything got closed during just before the festival, and it triggered the crowd, the systematic failure that these political parties are playing since a lot of time. So the corruption case was already there.
Hmm.
At the same time, so when other social media bans like 26, Facebook, Instagram, and all, so TikTok was not banned, right? Because TikTok's office is already in Nepal. So the trend of these nepo kids that's trending in South Asian regions also played a huge role. I mean, the people who, I mean, the leaders, the political leaders, lavish life
Hmm.
of
Hmm.
their children in the expense of the ordinary Nepalese. So everything got trending. I mean, in TikTok, and all the people, the young, the everyone who were not
Social media
the
users
political
only.
alliance
Hmm.
of any
Hmm.
political party, like
Hmm.
came forward for a peaceful protest. And I was in the protest from 9 a.m in the morning. And it was a emotional moment for me also, because standing there in the middle of the masses, seeing these young individual youths coming, it was very emotional moment, because these people were not there just nobody bought, I mean, asks to come to their people by giving them petrol, or by giving them money, or by
Hmm.
giving
Hmm.
them masuvat and all, right? So in that sense, it was for me myself, it was very emotional moment.
Hmm.
And while looking at the crowd, I mean, there were all students, all with the banners in their hands, marching towards the parliamentary building,
Right.
right? While I was there, I was thinking, okay, there are so much crowd, so where do they left? Because the Nishedit Kshetra, lies somewhere in the middle.
Hmm.
And because nobody was checking the news, I mean, we're like
Hmm.
so occupied, right? So
Hmm.
when we thought of going inside, like, okay, what's happening and moving forward, we heard some of the bullet sounds. And then we realized, okay, every young people are now getting inside the parliament's building, and they are police is trying to block them, but there was no existence of police after certain time. And there are some visuals that these young kids were shot, I mean,
Hmm.
in their, in their heart, in their, just above the thing. So in these kind of protests, the first instructions to dismantle the mass is you have to either, like, there is some protocol that a police person has to follow, and it looked like no protocol has been followed too, because a student who is wearing a school uniform was shot dead by the police just in the gate of the parliament's building, right?
Would you
And
say that Nepal police that shot the kid,
that's
or are
correct.
they that you're saying it's
That's,
Nepal
I mean,
police?
see, Shreya, so we can, I mean, say whether Nepal police, I mean, suit, or whether there were few guys with the snipers in different tall buildings. But I mean, the main thing is somebody shot, and it's still the investigation after the, after this Sushila Koirala is the new prime minister of the interim
Hmm.
government. After this whole thing is gone, the first thing they're gonna do is investigate the whole thing, that who was the one who gave the order to shoot a kid in the head.
Absolutely, Darshan. I'll want to bring in Patikrit into the conversation here. Patikrit, these are two narratives we are hearing, one from Dhaka, one from Nepal. Both places, I've realized the similarity is there's still no clarity with regards to who gave the order to shoot these protesters in the first place. Because I remember, let me put it this way, I remember when it was Sheikh Hasina, she had come out to call the protesters Razakar. She had given instructions that yes, they need to be shot if things are getting out of hand. But the protocol usually goes, under such circumstances you begin with rubber bullets, and then it's it intensifies and escalates from there. But being shot in the middle of your head, these are concerning. And what is even worse at this given point is we've seen that July revolution took place a year ago. While each interim government comes out to say we will probe into these killings, we will probe into what happened, somewhere those probes keep piling up, but there is no action taken. So, what do we make of it here?
So first and foremost, we are look at it how maturely India government actually dealt with the situation during the anti-farm law protest, when there were severe violence. Some people went up the Red Fort, pulled down the Indian flag, but the government of India showed extreme restraint and it made sure that no bullet is fired. That is the red line no one should cross. But at the same time, you never know those who actually orchestrate such kind of things. There can be an insider job of somebody telling that you must shoot. See, I'll tell you, you talk about Bangladesh and Nepal. First and foremost, people of Nepal are beautiful people. You know, we have civilization and cultural connect with them. It is up to them to decide what is good for them. But when you talk about the similarity, look at what happened during Arab Spring. During the whole of Arab Spring, what was termed as a spontaneous protest were all orchestrated by the NGOs. People were trained for months. Social media played a very big role in amplification. It was also called the Twitter war because it was channelized that way. Money came in. If you look at what happened in Syria, universities were the ground where protests started for democracy. They were galvanized, pushed towards the army, headquarters and major government buildings. Somehow there was a retaliation. Syria is not a radical Islamist state, but it was, developed country, but it had a dictator. So they were shooting, and suddenly, from the students, somebody created the Free Syrian Army, and the Free Syrian Army suddenly had arms. Everybody had an AK-47 to fight against the government of Syria. And then people came from outside. ISIS came in. Obama administration dropped in weapons, went to Al-Nusra. Al-Nusra joined ISIS. America came in to fight against Assad. Russia came in to fight for Assad. And then the whole protest took the shape of a civil unrest, then anarchy and civil war. Today, when the people of Syria look back and as to what they have achieved in the name of democracy, or achieving democracy, that is a destroyed country. And that is exactly what happened in Libya. That is what happened in Tunisia. That was perhaps the plan to get it done in India as well, but it did not work out, fortunately. In case of Bangladesh, what was surprising is Dr. Yunus goes to America and said, what happened? We have planned for it for a long time. He introduced Mahfouz Alam, Hizbut Tahrir. He was a member of Hizbut Tahrir, which is a banned fundamentalist organization. So all we want to say is that it is the Gen Z comes up and does something. They have the anger. They have absolute right to be angry. But if you remember, Shreya, in India there were certain states where there were governments which were, and their tenure was considered jungle raj. The reason India survives is that in spite of people being terribly frustrated, they waited patiently for election. They went through the election process, and that particular political party whose tenure is known as Jungle Raj was never allowed to come back to power in Bihar. And that is what is more important. I was talking to some people from Nepal, the representative of the Gen Z generation. I said, look, we respect your emotions and aspirations. But tomorrow, if you want to create a better Nepal, a new Nepal, where would you want to sit? Because you have burned down the parliament building. The parliament building was created with your taxpayers' money. Where would the judicial system give verdicts from? Because you have burned down the Supreme Court. What happens to the tourism because you have burned down the Hilton Hotel? Where would tourists come and stay? And who would then dare to go to Nepal? So my only concern is we all would want Nepal to become a better country. But if you start destroying the process and the institutions, and if it is all about the mob deciding which is better, then tomorrow another mob will come and say, I will do it because I think I have a big mass with me. And that's where the problem is in many of these countries who actually thought this is actually a hybrid warfare. I respect the sentiments and emotions of people of Nepal, but somewhere we fear that somewhere it got hijacked by somebody else with an ulterior objective. And that those institutions who hijacked it helped them. I can tell you, there are social media sites and social media messaging sites where these discussions took place. Everything was channelized. The anger was channelized. Look, Nepo kids happen in India as well. You don't go and burn down the parliament. Nepo kids are here. You have disparities here also. People aspire to have a better life. People are told that tomorrow you can also be a Dhirubhai Ambani because he started from scratches. We talk about corruption, we fight against it, but we don't burn down the parliament building. So I think somewhere, these countries are beautiful people. They are innocent people. But their innocence and anger somehow get channelized in today's era with social media, with the NGOs playing a critical role. US aid had pledged $700 million to Nepal since 2015 earthquake. Where has that money gone, Shreya? And what was that money used for cultivating? Today in Bangladesh, they have destroyed their textile industry, their tourism industry is destroyed, they have destroyed infrastructure, they have destroyed hotels, and it appears Dr. Yunus, who is termed to be the face of Gen Z, is actually somebody who works for the Clinton Foundation. He has been planted there. He comes with a purpose, and that person doesn't want an election to happen. So he was saying that Sheikh Hasina is anti-democratic, and today you have a government who said, no, I don't want election. In Syria, which is surprising, ISIS, which is a designated terror organization or against whom everybody fought, and Al-Julani, with strong connection with ISIS, is now made the president of Syria, and America comes and shakes hands with him, the president of America. So I think there are far more than what meets the eyes. Today, I don't think anybody in Bangladesh can say that we are better off today than what it was during Sheikh Hasina time. I am not advocating for Sheikh Hasina. But when you destroy institutions, the outcome is always dangerous, because mob frenzy and emotion, this honeymoon phase will last for 6 months. And then if they expect everything will be changed by the new interim government with 25 kids to be told to run the administration with no understanding of policy, foreign policy, economic policy, and then it's all goes back to square one. Bangladesh today is in deep turmoil. So, perhaps that was the objective of those who actually
Very
organized.
true. Patikrit, I'll just come back to you and let you finish that. But we're just running out. We're a little short on time. So before I let all of you gentlemen go, you've all made very pertinent points. Let me first say that. Anamitra, I'll come back to you. Let me understand from you, like Patikrit has also pointed out with instances, and so have you, that there is an involvement. There is a Western involvement, be it underlying or be it very out there, but there has been these influences that have been highlighted in the history, if in history, in the geopolitical history, if we are to put it that way. Every regime that has come down across the world, there have been involvements which have either come out while the protests, while the chaos was unfolding, or post the entire thing has blown over, and then we see the US coming in and shaking hands, like Patikrit has also pointed out. You yourself, you've ended your article with mention of the American deep state. I will just want your comment on that before I let you go.
I'm completely agreed with Patikrit. Actually, in Bangladesh, there is no doubt that it is a regime change operation by United States deep state. It was actually Muhammad Yunus, who after some months went to New York, and in Clinton, in front of Clinton, he said that nothing was spontaneous. Everything was meticulously planned. That's the quote. And actually, it was planned earlier than 6 or 7 years. The government also knows. Government also knew. The Sheikh Hasina government also knew that. That's why she targeted Muhammad Yunus. But the mole was in her government also. The regime change operation, the protesters in 5th August, actually, who acted as the leader of the protesters, the General Waqaruzzaman. That is the fallacy. Waqaruzzaman, relative of, not very close, but relative of Sheikh Hasina. And for this, Hasina chose him as military chief. And now, you know that Hasina called the protesters as Rajakar. Rajakar means anti-freedom. And at that time, I had doubt that all those are Rajakars, all those are all those anti-freedom. But after some months, now it's absolutely clear that that the protesters were at the helm of Rajakars, that is Jamaat-e-Islami, Hizb Tahrir, and others. And now they are controlling the interim governments. In case of Nepal, I'm not sure of that. But the protesters, but the people of section of people of Bangladesh, they they actually was the similarity of the killing of protesters in Kathmandu and Dhaka. And that's why the question raised, is the state still active in Nepal also? This is their
Right.
question. I think the answer was not we get it so far, but we have to wait for some days also.
Right. Right. I think that's very well put there. Darshan, I'll come to you next. Very, very short, brief response from you on this as well. Uh, you know, something that's been pointed out by Patikrit here, I would want to take you up on that. It's a mob mentality which overtook Nepal, which overtook Kathmandu in the last couple of days. While, yes, we understand the anger against corruption, the question also lies if tomorrow there is something about the new government, the interim government, that this particular section of the public doesn't like, will such mob violence continue? Because we saw even after Prime Minister Oli had resigned, the violence still continued for hours, if not an entire day post that. More importantly, will your generation, which actually started the very protest, the Gen Z, will they come out to demand accountability, a probe into what happened? Why did it become this violent? Like you said, there needs to be probe, but do you think you will be putting this entire pressure tactic that we've seen in use for the past couple of days, be it to bring in Sushila Karki as the interim head or to start this very revolution, you be using the same tactic to hold those who are actually accountable?
Definitely, Sriya. So I'm a millennial kid. Like I'm not Gen Z. Like,
Hmm.
but see, I mean, this is the internet generation, right? And every videos that you see, every people who was trying to was mobilized. They were identified. Few of them were identified as few political party associated people. See,
Hmm.
this is the mobile generation, and we have AI. So all the documentation part, as far as I have heard, all the documentation part of who was where and who burned it is,
Hmm.
I think these team are already collecting it. So those people who burned, Nepal's parliamentary building, Sarvocha Adalat, and other these infrastructure will be identified,
Hmm.
and this mob will be also punished, no doubt on that. And I see, I mean, let me come to the Parikit, I mean, explanation on on Sudan or the Hami Nepali team. But yeah, I mean, Nepal overall, it is that way. But if we look at the history, he have been in 2020, I mean 2015, when there was a earthquake, he have been
Hmm.
helping Nepal with no any ill intention. Otherwise he could have come forward for the prime minister of the country. No, he's from the Gen Z, with very good understanding. They have
Hmm.
chosen Susila Karki, who is the interim prime minister.
Hmm.
And of course, this is the time where a lot of controversy things will emerge. Also, I like to
Right.
highlight, Sriya, that few media, I mean Godi medias, were I mean they were, I mean, not beaten exactly, but they were not welcomed in Nepal, because the narrative, these media houses sitting in Delhi and the reporters in the ground were also putting forward the Hindutva movement, or let's say these sort of things also going on. So
Colored narratives being
that's
presented.
true. On
Right.
Hindu Rashtra, all few media channels, even I can
Hmm.
name them, but I don't want to be bad. So
Right.
you
No,
guys
no, I
understand what
understand
I
that.
mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I understand your point here, and you have said that yes, this Gen Z movement shall continue in terms of holding those who are actually accountable. Patikrit, the last word comes in from you here. My question to you is there a targeted violence that's taken place in both Dhaka and Nepal? When I say targeted, I want to raise the fact that is the Indian subcontinent becoming a target for instability? Are there Western forces, are there Western nations that want this particular place to be unstable at this given point? And if so, why? A short,
So,
brief response from you.
yes, there is a containment strategy, there's no doubt. So Myanmar is up in flames. Bangladesh, see, look at Siliguri corridor. On both sides of Siliguri corridor, you have two unelected governments. And how do you deal with that kind of a situation? I think I have the highest of respect for Mr. Darshan and all the Gen Z kids of Nepal. I mean, let's not get into that Hindutva thing and all that. You know, but
Hmm.
14 hours in Nepal. And if somebody wants
Yes.
to attack temple in the name of protest, and some people in India protest that too, let's not treat it as a Hindutva issue. Your country, we respect your country. You know that is the abode of Sita Ma. So we respect your country. Our concern, let's not put it as we have our own agenda. But the problem, my friend, is tomorrow if things don't go right for Nepal 6 months down the line, I think there will be certain elements will put the entire blame on India. That is another big issue for us. Now, tomorrow, look at what is happening in Bangladesh. The Special Operations Command of United States have come to Bangladesh to teach firefighting to the Bangladeshis. I mean, are we to believe that? So, in case of tomorrow, if NATO wants a small training base in Nepal, I'm sure people of Nepal would be opposing it. But let's see how it works out, because it has not worked out for many countries where a mob, mobile is a very important tool, but it's a very dangerous tool to actually make a mob frenzy. Please fact check things before you start believing the whole trend of banning all political parties, then going for election. I mean, that is exactly we see in case of Bangladesh also. So we are witnessing hybrid war. I mean, I have the highest of respect for people of Nepal. I'm not saying it is happening in Nepal, but this is a danger we have seen in many places, a hybrid war being created where a nation is destroyed by the people of the nation by somebody from outside. In 2 days, the kind of destruction that happened in Nepal, which many people in Nepal are thinking is as their victory. Imagine the cost of reconstruction of these things, and who is going to pay for that? And whoever pays for that will ask for its own pound of flesh. How would you say no to that organization or country then? That is where the issue is. Please remember, Sheikh Hasina refused an American base, and look at the consequence. Even Prime Minister Modi said for refusing the trade deal where the Americans wanted us to open our dairy, poultry, fisheries, and agriculture market, and we refused. We refused to involve 15 crore people, and suddenly we see in 2 days' time Nepal is gone.
Right.
We hope solutions are created, but there's an encirclement and a containment strategy happening. India's journey from a $4 trillion, what happened in Nepal, I'm telling you today, the objective is not Nepal, it is directed towards India. People of Nepal are good people, but somebody is pulling the strings from behind. We hope it is.
There is internal discontentment. There is internal discontentment for sure in the countries we have seen these revolutions in, but that is being somewhat used by a foreign power at this given point. That is the general consensus at this given point. Darshan, let us tell you this, that we are not denying the fact that yes, there was an entire wave of corruption in Nepal, which had in fact enraged the public. We respect that, we respect the movement, but at the same time, there is this facet, there is this aspect to in fact see how foreign instruments or foreign nations might also be at play when we are witnessing mob violence to the extent that we did in two countries in less than a year. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me on India Today. And well, this has been a fruitful discussion, and we do hope that both Nepal and Dhaka definitely will in the upcoming days have their elections and in fact find the purpose with which the protest had started with. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you.